Hey Kay, good to see you.
Hi, good
So,
morning.
welcome everyone to this chat show, which is Live Sutra series in association with EDU TALK with Jane. So, welcome Kay. She has received her bachelor's from California State University, Northridge, where she majored in deaf studies with a concentration in deaf education. She will be starting her sixth year as a teacher with coming school year. She has dream of becoming a yoga therapist where she will continue her love for teaching and travel but with some different capacity. She is also certified yoga teacher from India, and that's where we met while we were doing a yoga course. I think Kate, it has been quite some time, and during this gap, we traveled to many countries as well.
Yes.
So, welcome, Kate. Um, Share something about how you started your love for teaching.
Um, I fell into it. I was not blessed with the passion of somewhere you're like, oh, I knew I wanted to be, an architect since I was 5. That was not my journey at all. I was in my last year of high school, and my parents were like, "What are you gonna do?" And I'm like, and so I just went into education, which I had been in that field for, since I was able to work. So it just kind of felt like a natural transition into that. So I just kind of fell into it.
How was your first experience when you started teaching?
I remember my very first day in front of a classroom of students, and my whole mind just went blank, and I was like, I don't even, and then I went and found my curriculum specialist and was like, I know what I'm teaching. I know what I'm supposed to be saying and what the students are supposed to be doing, but how do I start? And so she came in and like got me started. But I definitely remember that because thought, I've been working with kids for years. I know how to talk to anybody. And then I just was up there like, what do I say to these young people right now?
So you said you were into architect before, and then from there you moved to teaching with young kids. That's quite a shift. What inspired you to, have this big shift? This is my first question, but I'm equally interested in knowing what inspired you to travel around the world and still be in teaching.
I liked to do a lot of, I'm a minimalist. And so growing up, my parents are not. And so I used to design little tiny, like before it was cool, tiny homes. And then I was really interested in that. And my parents are like, this is never going to be a thing. Like, you're going to be like a struggling architect. Like, who's going to hire you? I was like, I missed out. I would have been rich right now. Um, but yeah, and I didn't pursue that path, obviously. But yeah, I started traveling about 2 years ago. COVID was a blessing, I think, for some of us and a
Mhm.
curse for all of us. But with that, a lot of the education had to get creative very quickly. It was my first year teaching, and we had to go virtual at the end after COVID. I remember we had a meeting before spring break, and my principal was like, we have our first case of COVID in the US. We don't know what the next steps will be. And we never went back to school. And so while I was homebound, I was going stir crazy, as most of us probably were. And I just started thinking about reflecting on my life choices, and I was like, what am I doing? Like, now that everything is more virtual, I can leave and go other places. So I sold my home, I sold all my furniture, I dropped
Amazing.
my
Wow.
cats off at my parents' house and left. So I've been traveling since.
You said you sold off everything. I think that's a very drastic decision. We live in some kind of comfort since our birth. and suddenly taking a drastic shift. Were you fearful? Were you scared?
No, I didn't. I don't really have that button. I can be very impulsive, which terrifies my parents. And I was like, no, this is a good choice. And my parents are like, what happens when you get tired of this lifestyle? Where are you going to come back to? You're not moving in with us. Um,
Hmm.
and like, what about your animals and your job? And I was like, I'll figure it out. And so everybody thought I was nuts. And they're like, you'll be back. This is just a phase. Like it's because of COVID. Like you just need to go out and, get it out of your system.
Hmm.
And now I'm like, I'm not going back. So I think it surprised everybody.
Are they happy with the idea of you being on a move all the time now? Now,
Um,
your
I
parents?
think sometimes, yeah, like I feel like since I did this, my parents are like, we're so proud of you. You're so brave. And I'm like, I don't really consider it bravery. I don't know what I consider it, but they seem to be like, oh yeah, our daughter is doing this. And everybody's like, I'm shock and awe. I'm like, guys, I'm not like, in Antarctica building igloos. Like it's just life in other cities. So, but I'm glad that they're on board with this. So I do wish they would get their passports though, because going back to the States is expensive and it's not something I can do all the time. But
Yes.
hopefully with time.
Uh, what do you consider actually bravery at this point of time in your life? Something that would be even drastical than this, which you want to
Um,
do, but somehow we all have something, that holds us back from taking that next step.
I think that being authentically ourselves is probably the thing that takes the most courage. Like doing these other things is like exciting or like, I don't know, Instagram worthy or whatever. Like they're just actions, but that doesn't really take any courage, but being like authentically yourself, I think in spaces where we do glorify Instagram and Facebook and social media and all our movie stars, it gets so easy to try and do what other people think are correct. Like my lifestyle is not, the American dream or normal. I only see my friends when I'm visiting them in the country that they live in or when they're visiting me. It can be quite lonely, but I think it takes more courage to follow what is right for you. And so I think making sure to check in, like, am I here for myself? Am I here because I think this is where I'm supposed to be, or is it where I actually want to be? I think I consider that more bravery because you're willing to sacrifice, like you said, those creature comforts. Like it's so lovely to be able to go out on a Saturday or Sunday morning and have coffee with a friend, but when you're traveling that's not always possible, and so it's saying like this is okay for me in this capacity, but also, and this is also okay, or I want this to also be okay.
That's so beautifully said. I mean, being authentic is really challenging in this burst of social media all around us, where everyone is wanting to showcase actually what they really are not. Tell me something else. So, yoga inspired you some way uh, in your life to take some drastic change or improvise your personality.
Yes, in the Western world, as I'm sure you experience where you are as well, there's the maybe not so much where you are, but I know in the US it's a lot of like the hustle culture, the be productive, do something. Why are you sitting there? You could be, making money with your side hobbies. You could be getting a second job. You could be, doing all of these things. We're trying to capitalize on people's interests and skills, and it's always more, more, more. And so it creates a lot of anxiety in a lot of people. So there's a reason that 80% of US
Hmm.
people are on antidepressants or anti-anxiety meds.
Yes.
And I've struggled with that myself. And so practicing yoga and really getting into um I don't know, like the beliefs and I will even say yoga is like a culture, right? And getting into that, I saw like, oh, I have so much inner work that I need to do, and I think this is how I can do that. And then seeing, fellow, people experience these things, I thought this isn't just like it's an epidemic. And so I really started to fall in love with yoga and finding samadhi. Like it's my main search in life. Um, and so I was like, I think this is beneficial for myself. And then I think it can benefit a lot of people because we get so caught up in the external. We don't look internally, and so it definitely is influencing a lot of things in that mind body connection. I don't think we have it anymore. At least we don't in the States. We're just like, yeah, body, I'm tired, and then it's like, listen to that. Like it's okay to listen to that. So it's definitely inspired me. I definitely want to switch gears from teaching children to um in the school classroom capacity to maybe teaching yoga in schools about mindfulness and that mind body connection and yoga and the importance of being able to sit with yourself and meditate for a little bit. So I think right now that's more needed than, I don't know,
Hmm.
algebra for, 10-year-olds.
That would be, in fact, beautiful. You also shared that you want to start sometime yoga therapies, yoga center, or healing center. Tell me more about that.
I haven't flushed out all of the details yet, but I do see that many lifestyles are in causing extra, I don't know, I don't want to say torment, but extra stress on our bodies and our minds. And I think just as a whole, focusing on alignment and really yoga is about like creating space. And
Mm,
I mean, in the States, we're all about metropolitan cities and, skyscrapers, and there's no space. And then we internalize all these expectations and we don't have any space for us. And
mm,
so it's just this very tight, compact world that we live in. And so I would love to start something where we can start creating that space because a lot of times it's a mindset. Like I know sometimes when I'm like, I have nothing to do, I can relax. And then I don't relax because all I'm thinking about is I should be doing something, or am I missing something? Am I forgetting something? And, um, I also think that's something that needs to be untrained in us because it's great to be bored. Like we encourage, like we as educators encourage children to be bored because it helps grow the creativity. It helps stimulate our brains more than watching TV or playing with the tablet. And so we need to allow these spaces for ourselves as well to embrace the boredom, which I think a lot of us avoid. So I'd love to create a space where we can sit with that uncomfortably bored or just bored or comfortably bored. So I think creating those spaces are really necessary and important. Um, and that's something I would really like to achieve while also focusing on creating more space in the body internally as well. So I think there's a lot of benefit to it.
Yeah, you very beautifully said. I really like the thing that you said. Getting bored is also good. I remember like when it's almost 10 years back, I started experiencing that. What if I get bored? And initially, I was scared. What will I do? Maybe somewhere, it was like I don't want to face myself. But if I see over a period of time, it's a beautiful journey because if I get bored, I can actually see clearly what I really want to do. So I think you highlighted a very important point, especially when we are flooded with lot of content. The moment we are free, we want to do this, we want to do that, and there is no scope that we can consciously uh, be at a place where we are bored. So, very beautifully said that. Kay, is there any challenging moment that you have faced in this journey of yours since you left your home? And is there anything that you regret?
Definitely a lot of challenges. I like to go to less traveled areas. Like I just went to Turkey, but instead of going to like Istanbul or, Antalya or these more traveled places, I'm like, what's this city right there? And no one speaks any English. So
Yeah.
sometimes that's a challenge. Me and Google Translate are best friends. But also the internet. Like I know I've been in India multiple times while teaching, and I love India, but the internet does not love me. And so internet issues while teaching is always interesting. And then it gets really lonely. Like everybody's like, wow, it's so glamorous. And I'm like, yes, if I was here for a week, yes, it would be very glamorous. But sometimes there's just like a lot of crying involved because you're just like, I'm so alone. Like I'm like, I want a friend to go to coffee with, and I don't know where the language where I'm at. My parents are far away, the time change is also hard. So it's like when I feel these things, I can't always just call up a friend because they're sleeping or working. And I think people often forget that because I think we glorify the travel and the destination, but we don't talk about the reality. But I think that goes in par with the society that we live in. We look at the bright and shiny, but we don't actually see like, oh, yeah, we have to polish that, or oh, like that's also heavy because it's shiny and made of metal or whatever it is. But yeah, that can be challenging. As for regrets, I don't really regret anything in life because I feel like it's helped me become who I am now. And I think I'd like to think I've learned a lot of valuable lessons just about myself and about other cultures and other people. And I definitely think it's allowed me to hold more space for the unknown. But yeah, I don't have
Mm,
any regrets. So
that's
it's always a good
beautiful.
feeling.
That's lovely. We have a question from Nina. She is also inspired by traveling and teaching. So she is asking, she doesn't know anything about it, and how can she start?
That is a great question. I also didn't know anything about it. I had never even been on a plane until I was 17, and even then it was like a 2-hour flight in the same state. Uh, and so I think it really just becomes like if you want to, you just gotta do it. You gotta rip off the Band-Aid. You just gotta prioritize what's important. You can also start small. Like I had never left really the country, much less on my own. And I went to the UK. I was like, they speak English. I'll start there. I don't
Mm.
have to worry about, language barriers or anything. And it really got the ball rolling because I got there and I was like, oh, it's the same. Like, I'm okay. And from there, it really helped build that confidence and that excitement about future travels as well. And I think it helped kind of calm possible culture shocks
Mm.
because I know sometimes I'm like, whoa. And if I would have started perhaps maybe with India, I probably would have been like, okay, this was a bad idea. I'm going home.
Mm.
um, but with the slow travels to more similar places, you get really comfortable and then you get excited and then you think, what places are so vastly different that I can go see and experience? And I think that's probably the best way to start, just bite-size pieces, right? You don't start running, you start by crawling, as a child. So you just start with one thing at a time until you build those muscles and you build those comfortabilities and then you can jump in.
Lovely. So we have another question again from a woman. Her name is Vanita. She is asking, how do you manage being a woman traveling different places? I think it's
Yes.
different.
That's always
I
a
don't
good
deny
question.
that it is different. I mean, I can't deny that
It
as a fact also.
It is. Sometimes it's beneficial because people
Okay.
are more willing to help you when you just look really confused. Some
Yeah.
people are like, especially depending on the country. Um, and so that's always lovely. But luckily, knock on wood, I haven't had any negative experiences. It's easier to put it into perspective with I don't know where this young lady is from, but the US is ranked 126th out of 250 for safest countries.
Hmm.
So I think there's 125 places that I am safer at
Yeah.
than in my own home country. And I
Yes.
think when I put that into perspective, it makes me feel more comfortable. And the more comfortable I am, the more confidence that I have. And then I walk and act and behave in such ways. And I feel like people who are confident and are feeling good in themselves, I think people won't mess with you in that way. Like I've never been really approached
Hmm.
in any negative way. I've never had anybody, try and be like, you need a ride. Like I've never had any of these experiences. And so I'd say just making sure that you know where you're at, your surroundings. For the first few countries I traveled, I never walked around with headphones because I was like on high
Yeah.
alert. And then I started thinking, wait a minute, this country is like 19 on the safest places or this country is here.
Hmm.
So I think just being aware of surroundings and kind of just coming into your own and knowing like, hey, like I'm good. Like I don't need help. I can walk with confidence. And I
Hmm.
think people are like, oh, okay, like this person is not a target or a victim. Like I can't mess with this person.
Lovely. The another question is from Davor. He's from Croatia, and he's asking, he's asking that there must be a big financial gap between what you could possibly get in US in your home country, whereas when you're traveling. So, what was your thought process when you selected, to probably give up your that comfort and move out of that?
Yes, it is a big difference in that. I actually work two jobs to support my traveling habit, if you will. And it comes down to that it's just money. Like, yes, is it hard sometimes? Do I sometimes add more stress because of my financial situation? Yes, of course, but I think the mentality in the States was not good for me, and I would choose myself over money anytime, like even if it means that I need to work a little bit more. But if I can find peace and I don't know, a way of life that's better for me where I feel safer and I feel um and more at peace, I think that makes me a better educator. I think that makes me a better human. I have more to offer. I'm not constantly under this um like do better all of the time, keep going, doesn't matter if you're tired, why are you resting kind of mentality. And I also don't feel safe in the schools in the States either. And I value my safety. I want to feel safe. And I also have had the experience of watching 8-year-olds cry at some of the like shooter drills that we have. And so it's just like when you put into perspective, like I'm all for keeping kids safer, keeping them virtual. I'm okay with that. And I'm okay with losing some money, knowing that I'm safe, they're safer, that I'm able to be a better educator because I am personally feeling better, more confident, happier, more at peace with the life I'm leading versus money. Because money, I think we've all met that person that's like doesn't enjoy their job and you're just like, ooh, like you should probably retire. Like I don't want to be that for my students. I personally don't have children, but I give them all that I have and I can't fill them from an empty cup, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Any experience about your students that you would like to share with us?
Um,
I'm sure you have many, but any one that has really touched you or impacted you and that you would like to share with us?
I mean, not just one. I get so much joy out of my students. Like, I know sometimes teachers are like, ugh, the students, but they're the best part. Like, I hate grading. I hate lesson planning. I could just spend all day talking to my students. I feel like I learn just as much from them as they hopefully learn from me. And I really just like getting to know them, and somehow in the mix of becoming, being their teacher, I'm also becoming like a confident, or like someone called me mom the other day and I was like, no, like well, not that. Um, but just kind of becoming that safe place, especially my students that I teach, they come from really hard areas. Like some of their parents are in prison, some of their parents are in rehab. Some of them are being raised by their grandparents who already raised their kids. They're in their 80s. Like they're not, and so to be able to be a safe space for the students, I think is what I value. And I love that they can be silly with me. Like I love to sing, horrible singer, atrocious. But I get to use it to get their attention. And so and they'll just be like, Miss Serrano, like, please stop singing. And I was like, this is my future career. And they're like, you need a different dream. And so they do keep me honest, and they make me laugh, and I don't know, I just feel like I'm a better person because of my students. So
That's so lovely. That's so lovely. Any piece of advice that you can give to those who are uh, want to probably take your path?
I would say just do it. Just do it. Like, and I know it sounds so easy, but if you just think about like what is the purpose of our creature comforts, right? We're wired that way, like evolutionarily speaking, like we seek safety. Um, but I also think that for as much comfort as we seek, there's also we seek adventure and newness. And I think there's so much information out there and so many amazing cultures, people, countries, like just go and do the thing. And you don't have to drop everything and sell your house and all your furniture. You can just start small. But I do encourage everyone to travel more as much as they can, as often as they can, eat the weird foods, do the weird thing.
Yeah.
And don't wait, because really it's you're building memories, and if you're going with friends or family, you're building relationships and trust, and it's not the same environment as when you're in your safe space, when you're comfortable, and when we're uncomfortable is when we grow. So definitely
That's
just
beautiful.
pull off the band-aid.
Love that idea. So we have one more question, and the question is, how do you keep your class engaged during virtual meeting? So this is from a teacher. Her name is Anita, and she's asking this question.
That is a great question, Anita. Uh, Sometimes I just accept that like they're not gonna get engaged. But for the most part, I talk to them just like people. I build those relationships, and I let them lead the class. Like I'm there as like guiding. But like I let them pick their units. I'll let them vote for like an activity. I'll let them um get off topic sometimes. I think we try and make these kids like so regimented, and they're
Mhm.
kids. Like their brains aren't developed fully. They're still learning to be people. And I'm just as distractible as they are. And so sometimes we talk about dinosaurs, or I don't know, the world ending, or sometimes we just talk about what we did this weekend. And those little moments help build engagement, because I think allowing them to be them, like I know I had the students teach some of my classes. I'm like, okay, guys, like you're in charge, and just putting it back on them. It's their responsibility. So making sure that they're involved. Like I tell them I work for them. Like I'm a
Yeah.
teacher, yes, but it's their class and it's their education, and I fully empower them to choose how they want to learn things. And I think that also makes a difference. I think so much as an educator, we're told like, okay, you're in charge of the class. But that's not how you get student buy-in, and that's not how every student learns. And I've heard some horror stories from parents and from students who don't let their kids come off of mute, who turn off the chat box. How can you have a class? Like there's no
Mm.
engagement, there's no interaction. And so I think just giving them the power, as long as they're learning what they need to learn and they're excited about it, that's really all that matters. Like I tell them all the time, like, I'm not a perfect person, like add to the conversation. I've learned so many things, like Jupiter rains diamonds. didn't know that. That's not in our covered curriculum, but the students that are excited about it and have that freedom will gladly Google or look things up or chime in. And that's really the important part, is because we can all learn from each other. So just letting them have their class and meeting them where they're at, because if we're not, then they're not going to be engaged.
This is so beautiful. I think for many teachers, especially those who have been teaching since many years, the mindset that that he or she is a teacher and she is imparting or is imparting education is so strong that the concept that we are learning from each other is not coming up very easily. So I think you made a very good point that times have changed. It's equal learning, or at least some learning from each other, and if we have that kind of mindset, the classroom becomes probably more manageable than become being a, as you said, the strict teacher. So very good point. Thank you, Kay. Thank you so much for your time, your experience, and sharing your life journey. Is there anything that you want to add before we say bye to us?
No, I just want to say thank you so much for having me and having this, letting me have this experience and being able to spend time with you. I love you. You're like one of my favorite people, so I love it. So thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. And we will catch up once again with some another series on Life Sutra with another interesting person sharing their perspective. See you. Bye.